The day my mother died, she asked me to go out and buy her these clear glass marbles. Dad and I hadn't even known she was ill, which wasn't anything new. Whenever we asked if she was ill, she'd always throw things at us. Sesame buns, there's an editorial page, and a handful of hair ribbons. Do not, she'd say, suggest things to suggestible people. Anyway, I brought her back the marbles, and she counted out 90 of them, and she put them in this clear-cut glass bowl, which had once been the sum total of Great Aunt Helena's estate. Apparently, the doctors had given her 3 months to live. She set great store by doctors. I wouldn't give you 2 bits for these young smiley guys, she'd say. I go for a good stern, furrowed physician. I don't even think that she'd get her teeth cleaned by a dentist under the age of like 50. So she put the marbles in the bowl, and then she went out and she bought $12,000 worth of nightgowns. In my family, she said, you are only dying when you take to your bed. And that, my darlings, is exactly where I'm going. And she did. Dad and I hashed it out. He said that she couldn't possibly be dying, but the doctors convinced him. I told her I thought it seemed a little medieval to lie up there in a state like that. But she said that she didn't want to be distracted from the people that she loved. Us. And the things that she wanted to mull. I asked her what she wanted to do up there, and she said, study French, visit with us, generally mull, and maybe call a few pals. Study French. See, apparently a few years ago, she had made this pact with herself that she would die bilingual. Dad and I cried a lot. She didn't. Dad was fun to cry with. From then on, the doctors had to come see her because, well, as she put it, she came into this world with a house call, and she was going out with a house call. And all day, every day, she'd hold a marble in her hand. Why? Well, she said it made the day longer. Mom had her own room. That's the way it had always been, for as long as I can remember. She called Dad the Thrasher, and he could really get into a nightmare. See, apparently early on in their marriage, Dad had rolled over and broken her nose, and, well, that was that, separate beds. Her room was spare, really. There were hardwood floors and a steel and brass bed, an old oak dresser, a nightstand, and, well, don't ask me why, but there was a hat rack. There were no pictures on the walls. She said that she could never understand how one person could look at the same thing day after day after day. She said it was bound to deflate one's imagination. And every night after dinner, Dad and I would go up and we'd sit on her bed and we'd talk about the issues. She said that she was too far gone for gossip like what we had for lunch or whatever. And so then we'd all turn in, and right as I was about to drift off to sleep, I'd hear this. It happened every night. About the 3rd or 4th day, I went in there, and I saw one on the ground, and I bent over it to pick it up, and she said, "Don't touch it!" She said it very sternly. And I asked her why not, and she said that she was learning to let go of them. She passed the time. She made a list of children's books that she had read when she was little, and Dad and I went to the library and we got them all for her, and then we brought them back, and she read them, and she said that they were still the only good books that she had ever read. Then we got down the cookie tin full of old snapshots that had somehow never become like a scrapbook or whatever, and she liked that. And, Oh, she wrote notes. She wrote like 60 or 70 people. And they were kind of little formal goodbyes, they told us later. The things that they had done together, or inside jokes, stuff like that. But what was really strange was that in every single one there was a recipe. There was a recipe in every one. And we went through her jewelry, and she wrote down all the names of the plumbers and the cleaning lady and the air conditioning people and the roofers and all those things. And she called it wrapping everything up. She said, well, now this is good. This is good. I'm wrapping everything up. Then she asked for the TV to be moved up to her room, the only TV. And she called me aside one morning, and she said that it was entirely possible that she would reach a stage where she would no longer be able to comprehend what she was watching, but that I must promise her that I'd keep it on PBS. Later on, when things started getting hard, she called Dad and me aside. And she said that she would be seeing less and less of us. She said that this was something that she would have to do on her own, but that she was glad, and she hoped we would be too. That this sort of thing was arranged so that you become less attached to the people you love in the end. The next part isn't really worth getting into. It was just hard. You know, she never complained. She never mentioned the pain or anything. You know, she called it the chills. The last thing she asked for was this picture in the hallway of this old golden retriever. Apparently her and Dad had it when they were first married. And she said that it was a perfectly dreadful dog, but that when you're young, you believe in the perfectibility of dogs. About 2 weeks ago, I was in my room around midnight, and I was falling asleep, and I heard this. Dad and I rushed in there, and she was gone. Dad, when the emergency and medical people came, they found this in her hand. The rest had spilled on the ground, but this one was still in her hand. And I keep it with me every day. It makes the day longer.